News Channel 8 presents New Skills for Living with your host, Tom Lavin, a healthy plan for healthy living.
Hello and welcome to New Skills for Living, a show dedicated to healing and wholeness in our community. Today we're going to be talking with a Reno judge who is helping the most needy in our community gain new skills for living through 3 specialty courts that are available here in the Reno area. Our guest is Judge Dorothy Nash Holmes. Judge Holmes is a Reno native, and she served as the Washoe County District Attorney from 1991 through 1994. She was the Deputy Director of Corrections for the state of Nevada and created the Correctional Programs Division to promote rehabilitation for 14,000 inmates. Judge Holmes was a prosecutor in federal, state, and county courts for more than 25 years. She was elected a municipal judge in 2010 for a 6-year term. Judge Holmes, we really appreciate you being here to share your wisdom with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
So we were talking about helping the needy, changing their lives through these 3 specialty courts. Can you tell us, what are these specialty courts?
A specialty court is really a problem-solving court. It's a combination of judicial monitoring by making them come into court and see the judge every week or 2, compliance supervision by having a marshal or a probation officer type person, and treatment for those that are alcohol or drug addicted, and in case of one of my courts, those with mental illness as well. And the combination of that makes it a specialty court. We work on solving the problem, not just punishing people.
Mm-hmm. So tell us more about this idea of solving the problem, please.
Yeah, well, I have 3 specialty court dockets in my court, and I've been doing that now for 2 years. One of the other judges, Judge Howard, he has a small DUI court for about 25 people. I have about 125 overall. And there's a program for the homeless inebriates, the downtown drunks,
yes,
that have been committing misdemeanors and hanging around downtown for decades. And we're getting them off the streets. We're getting them sober. We're getting them into social services. We're getting them into treatment. We're getting them into housing. And we're monitoring their behavior while this happens to clean up the downtown. Then I have a specialty court for people that are both drug or alcohol addicted and have mental illness. It's an Axis 1 mental illness like bipolar, schizophrenia, major depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. And so we provide those people with treatment, with counseling, with medication if they need it, with different forms of therapy, and we help them get into housing and other programs. And then I've got a regular DUI drug court.
Yeah. So you're really changing people's lives, and you're really changing the community as well through these interventions. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Well, we are, and we know it works. We've already seen it work. We've got people in the program that were drunk for 20 or 30 years that have been sober for 2 years now. We have people in their own apartments that haven't had a home in 20 years. We have people that have gotten their children back, that have gotten jobs, that have gotten their licenses. We've got people that have not gone to prison on a 3rd DUI. So we know it works, and all the national research shows it works. And I'm not alone. We have 46 specialty courts in Nevada. I just run my little corner, which is 3 of them in Reno Municipal Court.
So Dorothy, you were talking about, and this was really great to hear about these interventions and the impact it has on the individual lives of these people. Now, what about, how does that influence our community? What is the contribution that these specialty courts make to our community?
Well, it's a huge effect. Quite frankly, I just came from an event with downtown business people, and there were people that live downtown in some of the condos, people that work for the casino properties, and they've told us that downtown is cleaning up. They're not seeing the same people that used to be there drunk on the steps every morning. So we know that that's having an effect. We know from the national research and our own experience that for every $1 you put into one of these programs, you get back $3 worth of benefit to the community. With the first 13 people that we had in our TRAIN program, which is our homeless inebriate court, first 13 people we had in 1 year, we saved $303,000 in jail costs compared to another group that we used as our sort of sample group. They wouldn't go in the program, or we couldn't keep them in it, and they went to jail For several hundred days, our people went to jail, 5 new cases in a year for 13 people. We can see the results very clearly.
So in this last half minute right now, do you think our community knows enough about these courts?
Well, no, and I'd like to get the word out as much as we can. 2 of my courts are grant funded. The 3rd we just sort of threw in there to get the benefit of the other 2. The mental health court that I run, the grant will expire in another 1.5 years. It was a 3-year grant. But the community that does find out about this wholeheartedly endorses it. The sheriff knows we've saved the money. The hospitals, the REMSA, they can see the effect. So I think once people know about it, then they are very much in favor of it.
Yeah. Well, this is some really good information, and right after this brief break, we're going to continue to learn more about these specialty courts and how they impact the lives of individual people, but also the positive impact in our community. So welcome back to New Skills for Living, and you'll see up on the screen the website where you can watch the judge's interview and over 30 other of the New Skills for Living shows in streaming video at www.easeap.com. Judge Holmes' interview will be up in streaming video in a few months. I also want to remind you that if you go to the website, there are over 80 newsletters that you can pull up and you can view, or you can download and print or share with people that deal with depression, anxiety, stress, relationships, and other important life skills type topics. So now we want to get back to talking with Judge Holmes about specialty courts. And Dorothy, some people in the community have said, well, geez, it sounds like the courts are doing social work. Can you tell us what your response to that is, please?
Well, it seems like that. What we're doing is monitoring all of the services that somebody needs to make sure that they don't reoffend again. It involves social services. We have to do it. Somebody has to do it. We don't have places in the community anymore for the mentally ill. Those were closed decades ago. We don't have the level of services we need. There's maybe 1 treatment bed for every 10 that we need for drug addiction in Nevada. Certainly the mentally ill, we don't have anywhere near the services we need. But by the courts having the legal authority to force some of these programs on people, gently of course,
yes,
and by being able to coalesce all of these services around them, we're in a position to make things happen for them and in their lives, and to help promote change that other entities can't do.
Yes. And of course, anytime we're dealing with a human being, we're dealing with a whole human being, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's one of the great things that the specialty courts have evolved into, is that you're dealing with the whole person, aren't you? You're looking at all the various needs: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, economic.
We have family members coming to court. We have babies in our court, and we buy presents when there's a baby. We have people in my mental health court, especially my COD's court, with a full range of Axis I mental health disorders. They might be schizophrenic, they might be bipolar. More are coming back with post-traumatic stress, from the war and things.
Yes.
And so we really deal with a whole range of human problems.
Yes.
And I think the important thing is, I always tell people, your brain is part of your body. If you had diabetes, you would take care of it. If you needed glasses, you would take care of it. So don't think of this as being mentally ill and having a stigma. You are solving a problem for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. And then I think, too, as you're dealing with the whole person, one of the things that we can lose track of is not just that you're helping to save a human life, but in terms of our society, you're saving our society from this revolving door that you've seen all these years. You've been practicing as an attorney for so many years. Can you tell us about that revolving door and how you're changing that?
Well, I've been practicing for more than 35 years now, and of course I was a prosecutor most of that time. But the first case I ever prosecuted as a juvenile deputy, when I went into adult court a 1.5 years later, I prosecuted that same kid.
Yes.
I saw people in prison that were sent to prison by me and by others 20 years ago. I saw their children. I saw their grandparents. It is so cyclical, and it is so generational. And in a small area like Nevada, so many people know everybody that has these problems. I have found that there is no segment of our society that is not infected and affected by drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
And it's a huge problem, and it contributes to the mental health. Because with mental health, it's a chicken and the egg. Did they start medicating because they had an illness, they didn't know what it was, and they were being judged for it, and they were being punished for it? Or did they start using the drugs and then get the mental illness? You don't know which came first.
No.
You have to treat the whole thing.
Yeah, and of course that's where the courts, where you're working with these other professionals, psychologists and social workers and psychiatrists and physicians, you are helping to come up with an accurate diagnosis and a good treatment plan, aren't you?
Right, and I'm not a doctor. I can't order someone to take meds, but I can order them to follow the doctor's orders.
Yes.
And we send them in for a psychiatric evaluation, and if the doctor orders meds, I can tell you that if you won't take your meds, I'll put you in jail for it.
Yes.
And sometimes it's that little hammer that makes the program work.
It's like Father Martin used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, but you can make him awful thirsty.
That's right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, this has been great, again, talking with Judge Holmes. And right after this brief break, we're going to continue to learn more about the positive impact in our community of the specialty courts. Hello, and welcome back to New Skills for Living. We're talking with Judge Dorothy Nash Holmes about specialty courts. So, Dorothy, how do people end up being referred to the specialty courts?
Well, for my court, my jurisdiction, I'm a limited jurisdiction judge, which means I just handle misdemeanors occurring in the city of Reno. So my people come to me from jail or from getting arrested for petty larceny, domestic battery, DUI perhaps, drunk in the park, any of a number of city misdemeanors. We also have some people that have been referred to us from some of the other courts, and sometimes we will swap cases. There's a mental health court in Carson City, and they'll get someone in their jurisdiction that lives here that commits the crime there, and vice versa. So sometimes we swap cases to help each other out that way. So my cases are all criminal in nature, unfortunately. I've had people call me up and volunteer for my court, and I say, I can't have you because I'm not telling you to go out and commit a crime. We don't want that. But that's how I get people from my court. They come through the criminal justice system.
I've heard people remark that the specialty courts, because of the work that you do with the whole person and stopping this revolving wheel, that it really is indicative of what we value as a community, as a society. Can you tell us what your perspective is on that, please?
Well, I totally agree with that. You know, when I was working in the prison system for 7 years, I learned and saw firsthand that the children of inmates are 6 times more likely to go to prison themselves. When a person goes to prison, their whole family goes to prison. The spouse, the children, the parents, the grandparents. And I think what we see in our society is we see a lot of young people that are unemployed, that haven't finished school, that have stopped their social development when they started using drugs. Some of them have children which have been taken away. And what we're trying to do is help people redevelop or rediscover their core values. We have people reuniting with their family for the first time in years. Our courts become very cohesive. It's a public session, and they all are in there at the same time, and they help one another. They end up driving each other to AA meetings. They end up coming to the aid of another person when there's an emergency. We have graduation ceremonies every few months, and they bring their family and their babies, and they stand up, and we have them tell how this has changed them and what they're going to do to stay clean in the future, and people hug and people cry and people get very much involved. So it's really reflective of the whole realm of our society. We've got, you know, rich kids on heroin, and we have poor people that are in the gutter and no place to live.
And just to hear you talk about that, there's really an intergenerational effect, because sometimes if we might want to be punitive towards someone who has committed a crime, we might forget that they might have children or grandchildren that are depending on them. And so if we can help them stay together or reunite them, the ripple effect in our society is very great over the next few generations, isn't it, Dorothy?
Well, it is, and the times right now are very difficult because of the level of unemployment and the bad economics, especially in Nevada. We're one of the hardest hit states. So if people can help each other, if people can help each other in their families, it's critical. It's so important. It really makes us be the people we are.
Yeah.
And I've seen people just do 100% change in my court.
Yes, they do.
I take before and after pictures of them, and I show them to them when they graduate, and it's kind of a stark reminder, but they are different people.
Oh, yeah.
Lives change. Lives change when you show people how to solve the problem, when you're more interested in that than punishing them. We punish them. They do time in jail.
Yeah.
They do community service. They pay fines, but they also get treatment. They get help. They get plugged into the bureaucracy, which they don't know how to navigate on their own.
Right.
And all of this together makes a difference, and it saves money.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense to do it this way in the community because it's more cost effective.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You were talking about people helping people, and we have about a minute here. There are a lot of agencies that you work with. Can you kind of share with us some of the agencies that work with your courts?
Sure. With our COD court, we're contracted to Bristlecone Family Services, to Family Counseling, and to Quest. We also work with Mojave Mental Health. We work with NAMS, which is, of course, is the state of Nevada Mental Health Services. We send people to our psychiatrists through the Access to Health Network, which is the nonprofit health cooperative, if you will, that Sherry Rice put together years ago. And so we get a great deal of help also in our DUI and drug court. All the counselors and therapists in the community, our people go to them for their treatment services. We have electronic monitoring and ankle bracelets, and so there are 2 or 3 companies in the community that work on that. And they give the court a little bit of a discount, not much, but because we give them a lot of business.
And so this is truly a community effort then, isn't it? With a lot of different agencies and a lot of people putting their heart and their soul and their professional expertise into this. We have about 30 seconds here, Dorothy.
It absolutely is. Our trained court especially, because that is social services, the police, the hospitals, the downtown businesses. It's St. Vincent's and Catholic Charities. It is all of those agencies, West Care, the Detox Center, working together to help people.
Yeah, this is some wonderful collaboration to help individual people as well as enhance our community. We'll see you right after this brief break. Hello and welcome back. We're talking with Judge Dorothy Nash Holmes. So Dorothy, how do we know these programs are working?
Because people aren't going to jail, that went to jail several times a week and 50 times a year. Because they're not in the emergency room as often as they used to be. Because families are united. Because kids are back in school, they're working on their GED. We plug them into mentoring through the GED program at the community college or the adult education. And so we can see the difference in people's lives. It's working. We see it.
Yeah. So along with the course now, you obviously have a great relationship with people that come to your court and you know these stories.
I do.
Is it being tracked too, like in terms of data that's being produced either here locally or regionally or nationally?
Yes. You know, the drug court system, a lot of people call all specialty courts drug courts, is the most studied phenomenon in the criminal justice system now. And they've been going since 1989. Nevada's first one was in 91. It was a pilot project, that I ran with the family court. And we got them full-time here in about 92 or 93 with Judge Breen. But it's the most studied phenomenon, and they work. The literature is there. The numbers are there. They've come in and studied the courts. The single most thing that makes them effective is the judge having a one-on-one relationship and knowing the person. So it's critical that we keep them going. It works. It's critical. We've got to get the community to buy into this and just keep this going. There's 46 of them in Nevada because they work.
So I think in our conversation today, it's probably pretty obvious to our audience how passionate you feel about this. And you were talking about the relationship with the judge is a very important therapeutic factor. Can you tell us a little bit just about what it's like for you, given your career and all these things that you've done? What is it like for you to preside over these courts right now?
Well, it's so interesting. I love the fact that I'm in a position to do something about this now because I've been, it's the other side of the coin. I was a prosecutor for so long. Then I was a deputy director of corrections. I saw people put into prison. Now I'm trying to stop people from going there by helping them solve the problem. And you get to know people personally. You know them by their first name. You know their children. we got the city of Reno to give us the Aces ball game tickets, and we took a whole bunch of specialty court people to ball games for the first time in 20, 30 years.
Yes.
Some had never been before.
Yes.
So you develop a real personal relationship, and you see them heal. You see them understand. You see the light go on when they find out what they're doing to themselves and how they're capable of fixing it. And it's amazingly rewarding. It's amazing.
It sounds like some of these people actually showing up at court, it's really a crisis that it can become an opportunity for them. It sounds like for some of these people, it might be the first chance they've ever had to put two and two together.
It is, and you know, contrary to most people, I think's assumption, it isn't just people from the other side of the tracks or the down and outers. We've had professional people. We've had very highly skilled and highly educated people. They have the same kind of problems. They have to still go through the whole process of learning how to deal with it, and they teach each other. When people get towards the end of their program, I make them keep coming back to court for a few months to show everybody what success looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's encouraging, it's uplifting to the others.
Yeah. Dorothy, what do we need to do to keep the specialty courts going here?
Well, grant funding is important. We get some of our funding from a federal grant that's going to expire in another year and a half. We need to come up with that in the community. We get donations. We buy things at the dollar store as incentives for these people. The community has got to pull together and realize the resources that we have to make this work. We put the TRAIN program together with a bunch of agencies that already dealt with all these people, and we just did it with existing resources. We just agreed to hold hands, cooperate, and work smarter. And anytime one of us encountered a person, we plugged them into the system with the others. And so much can be done if we have the will to do it. It's a matter of the will, it's a matter of financing it, that's got to be done. And it's a matter of recognizing what works and putting faith in it and letting it happen.
So someone who's out there and has been watching our show and said, this is a great community resource, I would like to be part of this will to have this continue in our community. What specifically can our viewers do then?
Well, if they want to make a donation, they can do it through the City of Reno Foundation, which is with the Community Foundation of Western Nevada. They just have to designate it for Department 3 Specialty Court.
Okay.
Or someone could come in and bring us a check, and we'll give it to the city. We'll find a place for it, believe me. When I ran for district attorney, I vowed to give back some of my salary because I thought that the job was too high paid for what judges do. Little did I know. But that money goes into a special account that is part of the foundation. So I think if people have the will to do it, they'll find a way.
Yes. That is some excellent information. We want to thank the judge for coming here and sharing her wisdom with us. And we'll see you again next month as we continue to take a look at new skills for living.